Welcome. So today we're talking about this massive, and I mean massive, revolution that's happening pretty much invisibly all around us. It's in the electrical grid that powers, well, everything. And here's the crazy part. It's a system that was built for a one-way world, and now it's suddenly being forced to go in reverse.
So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll take a quick look at the old one-way grid, how it even got that way. Then, we'll dive right into the messy, decentralized revolution that's happening right now. We'll ask who's in charge and how on earth we're going to rewrite the rulebook to build the smart, two-way system of the future.
You know, to really understand where the grid is going, we have to look at where it's been. And its story starts in a pretty unexpected place. Not in some lab, but in what people called a magician's palace.
Yeah, you heard that right. This quote is from way back in the 1870s, and it's about a country estate called Craigside. It was actually the first house in the world lit by its own hydroelectric power. And that made its owner, a guy named Lord Armstrong, the world's very first prosumer, someone who both produces and consumes their own energy.
But that whole local, self-sufficient model, it didn't stick around. For the next 100 years or so, economies of scale completely took over. It just became way cheaper to build giant power plants and push electricity out across the country through this huge, top-down, one-way grid. Think of it like a road system with these massive highways delivering all the traffic downtown, but every single side street is one-way only?
And this, right here, this is the fundamental reversal that's happening. The entire logic of the grid is flipping on its head. We're going from a simple, predictable system where we were all just passive consumers to this incredibly complex, interactive network where we, the consumers, are now also producers.
Which brings us right to today's revolution. It's being driven by this renaissance in distributed power, and it is completely shattering that old one-way model.
So, who are the key players in this whole thing? Well, they're called distributed energy resources, or DERs for short. And these aren't some giant power stations hundreds of miles away. No, these are the technologies showing up on our roofs, in our garages, and sitting in our driveways. And all this new tech, it's turning millions of us back into prosumers, just like Lord Armstrong was 150 years ago. We're not just taking energy from the grid anymore. We're producing it and sending it right back.
Okay, but here's the massive problem. Remember those one-way streets? Well, our grid's local streets were never ever designed for two-way traffic. So, when millions of homes start pushing power back into a system built for one-way flow, you get gridlock, a massive traffic jam. This creates unbelievable congestion, causes voltage problems, and is a total nightmare for the people trying to plan for the future and, just keep the lights on.
So, with all this new, chaotic traffic, you absolutely need a traffic cop. But the big question is, who gets the whistle? And this question has kicked off this huge debate about the role of the local grid manager, the distribution system operator, or DSO.
So basically, there are three models on the table. In one version, the main grid operator, the big guy, controls everything from the top down. In another, the local operator gets to manage its own neighborhood. And then there's a hybrid model somewhere in the middle. The choice we make here has huge implications for who really controls our energy future.
But okay, beyond who's in charge, we have to rewrite the fundamental economic rules of the grid, because the old ways of paying for power, they just don't work anymore. They're broken.
And this right here is the core challenge for regulators. How in the world do you write a new rulebook for a game that has been completely turned upside down? The goal is to send the right price signals to all of us to encourage behavior that helps the grid instead of hurts it.
So the old way of just charging you for how much energy you use, that's the energy base part, it's becoming kind of obsolete. Your future bills are probably going to be a mix of all these different parts, like capacity-based charges. They don't just bill you for how much power you use, but how fast you use it all at once. It's a way to get you to flatten out your own personal peak demand.
This also means we have to rethink grid access itself. Instead of everyone just getting an all-access pass to the grid 24/7, we might start seeing different levels of access. Seriously, think of it like creating priority lanes on a highway or charging tolls during rush hour. You might pay more for access during the busiest times, which helps manage the traffic jam for everybody.
So how do we actually manage all of this complexity in real time? Well, the answer is to stop thinking of our local grids as just dumb pipes carrying electricity and start turning them into smart, integrated energy systems.
And this is where it starts to sound like science fiction, but it's real. New local flexibility markets are starting to pop up. In these markets, companies can bundle up the flexibility from thousands of homes, your EV battery, your smart thermostat, and then sell it as a service to help the grid operator manage all that traffic. This literally turns the devices in your home into a potential source of income.
So, after all that, why should you care? Because this is not just some abstract engineering problem. This transformation directly hits your wallet and your lifestyle. It's going to determine what your bills look like, the best time to charge your car, and ultimately what role you get to play in our shared energy future.
And that really leaves us with this final, critical thought. The technology to build this new grid, it's here, it exists. But the social and the economic questions, we're just getting started with those. Answering how much automation and control we are willing to accept in our own homes, that's what will ultimately decide what the grid of the future really looks like.